Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Well, this administration knows how to celebrate our troops and honor our Constitution. The War Powers Resolution. This is the law that is supposed to keep the president's power in check. It's a 60-day deadline. He can send our troops out someplace, but he has to get congressional approval for military action within 60 days. That was 11 days ago. The administration didn't even really acknowledge the passing of the deadline, even though in the New York Times they said they were trying to figure out a way around it. Wow. He also promised that we would never put boots on the ground in Libya. But there are now reports out this weekend that, you guessed it, there are Western troops on the ground in Libya. This is in direct violation of the UN resolution prohibiting foreign occupation forces in Libya. Where is anyone on this? Where is Congress? Are we going down the road where the president just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until he is bigger than the system itself? What else will he ignore? What other powers does he have or does he want? Congressman Brad Sherman, a Democrat from California, called out Obama for treating Congress, quote, as irrelevant. And he said it is time to stop shredding the U.S. Constitution in a presumed effort to bring democracy and constitutional rule of law to Libya. I have news for you, gang. It was hard enough to try to do it in Afghanistan and Iraq. It ain't going to happen in Libya. Not in the current atmosphere in the Middle East. The administration's only defense so far has been to say that they believe that they're in compliance without explaining how they're in compliance. The only defense from the left so far is, well, yes, but other presidents have done it as well. Oh, well, then that's okay. My mother told me something about people jumping off a bridge at one point. Would you jump off a bridge if everybody else was? Congress, listen. Listen to the few who are speaking out and stand up. It's Memorial Day weekend. How about we make sure that our military is not sent out with murky missions and they are doing legitimate things, and we don't put boots on the ground in yet another country. Now, that report may be off base. I have to tell you this report because it did come from the administration's favorite new news source. They're the ones that the president wishes we were more like, Al Jazeera. So that report has to be credible, right? Hello, America. With the incredible access we have to information today, it is stunning to me that the president's power and his power grabs are going essentially unchallenged now, especially from those on the left who I thought hated all power grabs and all presidential powers and all wars. I mean, this is the anti-war president who joined with the anti-war left, talking about all the reasons that we couldn't go into war in Iraq, and now we're attacking Libya. Dare I ask this president, what is our mission in Libya? And when does it end? What does success there look like? America, I believe we are being led into a very nasty, nasty situation. How is it that Congress is just shrugging their shoulders? How is it that most of our country is as well? I believe our country is asleep. It's tuned out and it is unplugged. And the Memorial Day weekend is only the beginning of a very dangerous time, because it's usually when no one is looking that trouble begins. And I contend we are now approaching the most dangerous 120 days, perhaps since the Cuban Missile Crisis. When the world is on edge, remember where you heard that. It's important. Tonight, I'm going to present a video to you, tape from radicals, in their own words. And it's a plan that we laid out on this program in February. You will not see this tape most likely on any other network, probably not most other shows. And if they do give it to you, they won't give it to you with the analysis that we will. You have to ask yourself why. It verifies everything that we said a few months back that I wrote on this board right in front of me. Stand by. I'll show you that videotape here in a second. But first, before we do that, I have to ask you this question. Let me give you a scenario. This is your neighborhood. And your neighbor's house is on fire, as are all of the other. They're catching flames. All the other houses are all starting to burn down. Your house is not burning down yet. But you, that's you here, you have two neighbors. One neighbor is saying, your house is fine, don't worry about it, just go back in, no big deal. Your other neighbor is saying, I think we should get some water. I think we should. Okay, maybe it doesn't burn up, but maybe it does. Which one do you listen to? Especially if you find out that this neighbor and his friends have been saying they want to totally transform your neighborhood into something else. It works to their advantage. If your house burns down, will you still listen to this man? No, you wouldn't. You would never listen. You would get water. So why isn't America getting water? Why isn't America being urged to get water? Why isn't America leading the world in saying, get water? We seem to be flicking matches. I want you to ask yourself this question over the next couple of weeks. Who is preparing you for what is ahead? Who is preparing you for what is ahead? And who is preparing you for just another election? Are you going to be listening to the dolts who covered the Arab Spring like it was New Year's Eve coverage in Times Square? And why are you listening to them? You should be listening to somebody who's telling you to prepare for anything, to get your financial and your spiritual and everything, get your house in order, rather than somebody who is saying, oh, everything's fine. Disregard, especially if you know the track record. If you don't know the track record of this program at this point, why are you watching this show? It is seemingly every day we do something that I say to somebody on the floor, I don't know how this show is ever successful. We break every rule in television. Nobody in the history of television that I know of, especially cable, has ever done full-hour monologues. I was told when I first got into television to not speak directly to you for more than 34 seconds. Why 34 seconds? Apparently, that's the limit of the American attention span. I didn't believe that when I was over at the other network. We got up to 7-minute monologues over there. We're now doing 60-minute monologues every night. We break every rule. Yet there is a relatively steady 2 million people that watch this show each and every night. Why? Because they watch it, and they watch the record of this program, and they are engaged. People just like you. People just like you. Those 2 million people, I believe, will affect the world in a positive way. And that chance could happen in the next 120 days, where people will freak out and not know which way to go, and someone will tether it to sanity in your neighborhood. You will not be shocked. You will be prepared, and you will help others. I want you to share some actual video tonight that I'm going to show you here with your friends. Because remember, I was called a conspiracy theorist because of this board. And I said, and I asked my staff today when I saw this video, I said, do you remember at the beginning of February when I said all these things and I said in my office, I will fall on this sword. This I know to be true. And if I'm wrong, drum me out. I asked for it to be written here on this board, so you had a reminder, so you knew exactly what we said. Nobody could take it out of context or forget. It was a pretty brave thing because everyone said this was crazy. Watch this video here in a second. On February 7th, I said this on this program. And here's the premise. The radical Islamists, the communists, the socialists, they will work together against Israel. They will work together against capitalism. And they will work together to overturn stability. Now, here's the problem with this. When I said this on this program, that they would overturn Israel, No one was talking about anti-Israeli kind of rhetoric. It wasn't even in the news. Overturn capitalism? You're just on this socialist McCarthy hunt, Mr. Beck. And overturn stability? Well, first of all, that's ridiculous. They're not going to unite. They're not going to work together. And they certainly don't have anything in common. I remember being told that the Sunnis and Shias, what could they possibly unite on? Well, I wanted to show you that video clip from February 7th, because I want to show you another video clip that we just got in that is also from February. It is a prominent longtime socialist leaders conference that held this little gathering together in February. One speaker has authored multiple books on revolution and was on the ground in Egypt during the uprising. A socialist on the ground. Now here he is speaking 2 weeks after the uprisings and 19 days after I said on the air what I just showed you. I want you to listen to this 25-year-old Syrian activist who spoke at this socialist conference. Listen carefully to what he says.
Internationalism is the key word. We should remember the student movement in UK also pushed other students all over Europe to organize and to resist and to be in the streets. And as I said before, what is happening in the Arab region is against a global system. This is why everyone have to back it up, because we are putting an end and threatening the capitalist system as a whole.
Okay, that's the real enemy, not Mubarak or the dictators. That is the first enemy, but they are putting an end to the capitalist system, the Western way of life. Not what the media will tell you what is going on in the Middle East, or the president, or apparently the CIA. But this is what is truly happening in the Middle East. This is just another phase of what we have been fighting since September 11th. Remember, it was Bill Ayers who on September 11th, I believe, or 9th, was on the cover of the New York Times Magazine standing on the flag. Not a lot has changed. It was 2 days after September 11th that Van Jones was in San Francisco spouting and standing with people that spout this kind of nonsense, that the capitalist system as a whole needs to be destroyed. Remember that. The enemy is the capitalist system as a whole. He goes on to say this.
Be very clear, we have to push for this revolution. The threat is not from the Muslim Brotherhood. The threat is from these regimes that are backed by Western imperialism. We're not against, in the struggle, we coalesce with Muslim Brotherhoods, with different political groups, more conservative, because we have a common objective. It was the fall of the regime, the fall of Ben Ali, Mubarak, and others. And we walk together, we walk separately, but we hit together. This is normal. But as soon as our political interest will be different, we will criticize them.
Okay, listen to that. This is almost word for word what we have been saying on this program. Again, I want you to go to glennbeck.com and see the whole video of all of this. He's amazing, and he's not alone. There are 3 other people that are speaking at this conference. Reminder, it is a socialist conference, and they are talking about working together with different groups, specifically Islamic radicals, got it? Separately, but together. I said that they would do that, and they didn't have the same goal. That was the Bill Kristols of the world saying, what do they possibly have in common? The destruction of the Western way of life is what they have in common. And as soon as their political interests are different, all bets are off. This isn't rocket science. It's opportunistic groups that will latch on to each other and each other's movements that they don't necessarily agree with if it will help them get closer to their goal. It's called real life. And right now, many different groups, to achieve their goals, want an end to the capitalist system and the Western way of life, and they are working together. And what's the easiest way to get the Arab world to side with socialists? Well, this one is a tough one, because they have nothing in common except this. Watch.
You have slogans. We will unite the Arab world, we will liberate Palestine. And this we heard on Tahrir and in the Egyptian streets. We don't want any more of this Egyptian collaboration with the Israel state. Listen, When we resist together against a common enemy like Israel, we have to join our forces in the resistance. But when Hezbollah is doing neoliberal policies with the help of different political groups, I criticize them.
Okay. The common enemy is Israel. Now, where have you heard that before? Where? Let me show you what my theory is, and I stand by it. Just everybody on the left, this is my theory, and I stand by every word of it. Groups from the hardcore socialist and communist left and extreme Islam will work together because of the common enemy of Israel and the Jews. So here it is, confirmation. Now, what are we going to do with this information? The ends justify the means. These socialists actually believe, and this is where it gets tough, they actually believe that they're going to be able to team up and work with radical Islam and then stop them in the end from taking over the entire globe or wiping out Israel, which I don't know how. They actually believe they'll win in the end. Good luck with that one.
What is happening is not only good for the region, it's good for the whole world, because it's threatening the capitalist system, it's threatening the global system as we know it, and it's going to liberate the Arab world, but it might liberate the whole world. And every liberation of people in this region is a step forward for the liberation of Palestine, because this is also one of the main objectives of this revolution. Even though it's a slogan, it's repeated. When we had in Cairo last week, people chanting, 3 million people chanting, we will go, and the revolution will go until the liberation of Palestine.
Okay, go until the liberation of Palestine. Palestine, in Cairo. I thought it was all about the evil Mubarak and how the youth just love Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. It's 1776 all over again. They want the Western way of life. Why are they trying to threaten it? Because it's not and never has been about freedom, at least on the organized level. And you can see this now on how it's being framed. We should have seen it coming. I should have noticed this before as evidence. It's the liberation of Palestine. When we saw this, I asked our staff to go back and look, because we're glazing over the push Israel into the sea part. But if the news anchors would pull out, the Tahrir confetti away from their eyes and looked a little closer, they would notice something that I didn't even notice until today. Look, the Palestinian flag in Tahrir Square. If they would have looked a little closer in Greece, they might have noticed this. Oh, the Palestinian flag in Greece as well. If you would have looked a little closer even at Scotland, there it is, the Palestinian flag in Scotland. How about that? It's almost like radicals everywhere are uniting against the common enemy of Israel and the United States. But more importantly, if you listen to what he said, it's not enough to unite against something. You have to be for something. UBL was against the West and Israel and capitalism, but he didn't make it. This new group of radicals, which has the same goal, is against the same thing. But more importantly, they have figured out the key to the Western heart. It's the plight of the oppressed, this time the plight of the Palestinians. So they will scoop up the useful idiots, the college kids, and they will use every single image they possibly can and mirror Gandhi or MLK, because the plight of the oppressed wins. It's a Madison Avenue trick. They have re-imaged themselves, not as killers and terrorists, with a complicit press. The Islamic extremists now are re-imaging themselves as Martin Luther King. But let me show you two pictures side by side. These men are not the same. This is the spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, and his dream is to kill the Jews. These two men are also not the same. This is Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and his dream is to kill the Jews. Let me show you another one. This photo is from the Civil Rights March in Tennessee, and the other is the Gaza Flotilla. These are not the same movements. The followers of Dr. Martin Luther King never screamed or chanted, "Kill the Jew." They never screamed, "Remember Calabar." They never took pipes out and guns and beat people to death while screaming, "Kill the Jew." Those who marched with Martin Luther King were instructed specifically to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. Again, this is not rocket scientist. It doesn't take a genius to say which way the guns are beginning to be aimed. Not only are they not coming with guns a-blazing, we know now what their strategy will be. We saw it last year with the flotilla. We saw it this year in Nakba Day. They will flood the borders, and they will force Israel to defend itself and provoke them to act out, and then snap as many pictures as they can of the injured, and the world will react. I know this will happen, as much as I knew in February what would happen then. We now have verification and video that this is true. We can't wait this time for the video of the things I am telling you that are coming to be true. We must link our arms together in our own communities and be a force for good and not for evil.